Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I'm going to be talking about movies that I feel actually improved on the books. By the way, this is a very exciting video. Do you want to know why? Because it's my birthday. Yes, you heard that right. I'm going to be talking about movies that I think are actually better than the books that came before them. Yeah, don't worry, I won't be talking about anything too controversial, I don't think. I made this list and I was kind of like, I don't think anyone will get mad at me for this list. It's true, I didn't leave off a huge one, so don't worry. But yeah, I just want to talk about the movies that I feel like took a plot that could have been really good and it wasn't quite executed in the book and it was just done a lot better in a movie. This is a part 3 of a series that I have been doing. I did my favorite adaptations, then I did my least favorite adaptations, and after this video, in a few weeks, I will be doing a video about the books I most want to see turned into movies. So yes, let us just get on with this part 3 of this series and talk about the movies that I feel improved upon the books the most. So the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is The Devil Wears Prada. The book is by Lauren Weisberger and the movie came out in 2006. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not super passionate about the movie for The Devil Wears Prada. I haven't seen it in a few years now. It's a pretty good movie, but I'm not that passionate about it. However, compared to the book version, I think it's fantastic. The thing is, the story is mostly made up of characters who you don't really like, and I think that that comes across in the movie too. You don't love a lot of the characters. But at the same time, in the movie, the characters are so much more likable and forgivable than they are in the book. In the book, they are just such terrible people, and not in an anti-hero, I feel like I can still root for this person kind of way, in a you're all awful and I don't want to read about you anymore kind of way. Overall, I felt like the story was pretty similar, it was basically the same, but my main problem with it was really just the characters, because I couldn't handle reading about them. They were awful, awful people. And in the movie, I mean, you've got Meryl Streep, you've got Anne Hathaway, you've got Emily Blunt, and even though they're all still kind of playing not that wonderful of people, they're really good actresses, and they make it work, and they make them slightly more forgivable to the point that you're you can almost root for that part of them. Obviously, Meryl Streep played, this character that's over the top in the level of how mean she is to other people, but I thought she pulled it off in a really wonderful way. Plus, this movie has Stanley Tucci in it, and any movie that has Stanley Tucci in it is an excellent movie, in my opinion. He just makes it work. Next up, I want to talk about Bridge to Terabithia. This book is by Katherine Paterson? And the movie came out in 2007. Now, again, this is a pretty faithful adaptation in my opinion, at least as far as I remember both the movie and the book. However, I think the movie again was just a point of character development for me, that I ended up liking the way a character was developed a lot more in the movie than in the book. There is this scene in the movie where you have a character who is building and building and building, and the tension inside of that character is growing, and in the movie that character gets to let it out and it's really satisfying and it's a release, and you're kind of finally, I needed to see you release that. And in the book, I feel like you never get that satisfying moment where, of course you see this character experience emotion, but it doesn't reach the level that I really needed it to reach for a character who had gone through something so dramatic. Don't get me wrong, I mean, I think that the book is still a really important and beautiful book, but I think that the casting was done really well in the movie, and overall, I just feel like it captured the story so beautifully, and that made me love the movie more than I loved the book. Although I wonder how I would feel now if I went back and watched it, and I just saw teeny tiny Josh Hutcherson, because at that point in my life, I didn't really know who Josh Hutcherson was, and now I know who Josh Hutcherson is, so maybe that would change things? I don't know. Next up, I want to talk about Big Fish. The book is by Daniel Wallace, and the movie came out in 2003. And this is weird because Tim Burton and I have an interesting relationship. For the most part, I really like his movies, but, in more recent years, I feel like they've gone way too over the top, and I'm kind of all down on him. But when you go back and watch movies like Big Fish, I just think that it shows his ability to tell stories so well, and just the slightly fantastical elements of those stories, he captures them so beautifully. What worked the most about this adaptation is that the book sometimes comes across where you're kind of lost, you don't really know what's happening, and it feels really disjointed. And by the time you get to the end, you feel like you sort of got the point, but not really. But when you get to the end of this movie, first of all, if you get to the end of this movie and you're not like sobbing openly, I don't know what to tell you. This movie makes me cry no matter how many times I watch it. And it's not just me, it's not just because I'm a crier. This movie makes everyone cry. And I think it's because you get to the end and you get that point where you're like, I get it. I know why I was here. I understand the message that this story was trying to tell, and it affected you deeply. It's a beautiful, beautiful story about a father-son relationship, and about the lead character's father. It just does such a beautiful job of talking about life and death and relationships, and the movie does such a beautiful, perfect job, and I feel like the book just falls a little bit short in what it was trying to do. And so, oddly enough, I feel like this was a Tim Burton movie that not only did I love, but I feel did it better than the book, which is crazy a little bit to me. Alright, now it's time to talk about a big one, but one I feel like a lot of people won't really disagree with me on. I want to talk about Jurassic Park. So the book of Jurassic Park is by Michael Crichton, and the movie, the big blockbuster film, came out in 1993. This movie is actually on a lot of lists for most improved from book to film, so I feel like I'm not stepping on too many toes. I know that there are people out there who disagree with me. Of course there are, but I feel like I'm not, you know, like, shocking anyone. The main thing with this book is that it isn't really... It stops itself up on being kind of an action-packed book, which, I mean, obviously the book came first, so we can't judge it because, you know, action-based film, but I feel like it just gets bogged down in a little bit too much explanation and scientific stuff and some of the characters, to the fact that the pacing doesn't really work, and you're kind of like, okay, you're trapped in a park with a bunch of dinosaurs who want to kill you. And I feel like the movie captured it so much better. And not only that, actually what's weird is that while the pacing of the book is different, there are a lot more moments where they are in danger, to the point where you get to the end and you're kind of like, okay, well now it's a little ridiculous. And I think the movie also handled that better. It knew which moments to make calm, it knew which moments to really jump out at you, and I think it just took its source material, which was it was really good, and it was really impressive for its time, and it really made it cohesive, and it made it work together, and it made the plot really work together. So yeah, I really, really prefer the movie version of this to the book. It doesn't have like a lot of substance overall, but I don't know that the book did either. It's just a really fun movie to watch, and it definitely improved the pacing that the book had. Coming in at second to last, I would like to talk about Fight Club. The book is by Chuck Palahniuk? I wish I knew better how to pronounce his name. But the movie version of Fight Club came out in 1999. And this is really interesting because actually the author himself agrees with me. He has come out and said that he prefers the end of the movie to the end of his book, and that it accomplished something that he had wanted to go for but didn't really get to. So yeah, I'm definitely not alone in this. The author agrees with me. I just think that the huge, like, plot twisty element to this story works a lot better on screen than it does in a book. It works in the book, but you're kind of like, it's a lot more obvious, in my opinion, what this big plot twist is, and in the movie, I think it does a fantastic job of twisting your mind to where you get to the end and you're like, I also just prefer the end of this movie a lot more than the book. I just think that it was a way that I enjoyed seeing the way the story wrap up a little bit more. I mean, not wrap up necessarily. It's kind of a dramatic ending no matter which version that you like better. But I liked the conclusion that it came to a bit more than the book. I feel like the book was a little bit all over the place and I didn't really know what was happening, and then I got to the end and I was kind of like, that was the end? I feel like there wasn't any different tone from the rest of the book. So yeah, I just feel like the movie did this a lot better. I think that it's an absolutely incredible, incredible movie. David Fincher is a beautiful person, and he makes some great movies. And the last one that I want to talk about is a book by Roald Dahl, and that is Fantastic Mr. Fox. This movie came out in 2010, And I'm gonna be honest with you, I actually prefer the movie adaptations of a few of Roald Dahl's books. I like him, but he's a bit odd, and I think that sometimes a movie is better able to kind of capture that oddness and turn it into a story that you want to follow instead of just kind of like, and all these weird characters fell into this weird situation. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that Matilda the book and Matilda the movie are equally excellent, even though they are a bit different. I really appreciate both of them. And of course, movies like The Witches, I prefer the book to the movie because the movie is just a little bit silly. But Fantastic Mr. Fox, I far and away love the movie more than the book. I mean, maybe this is stemming from the fact that I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson. I don't really know, but I just feel like the humor of this movie is so perfect. It's kind of weird, and I feel like I can't use the word quirky when I'm describing a Wes Anderson movie. That should like be banned. But it is, and I think that it really, really works. And there is also a character that is not in the book at all that was added to the movie. And usually I hate when they do that, but to be honest, it really improved the storyline in general because I feel like the book was kind of like all over the place, and the character that they added, well, he was also weird and completely all over the place. I feel like he made some of the plot a little bit more cohesive, and he had some of the best laughs of the movie. I just think that the book had way too many characters to deal with and way too much story to deal with, and I was kind of lost most of the time. It's a children's book, so I mean, like, I knew what was going on, but it was also still like Roald Dahl. It's a bit kooky, it's a bit weird. And I just think the movie captured it a lot better. I think it has a fantastic cast, clearly. Meryl Streep and George Clooney are in this movie. Meryl Streep. Oh, Meryl Streep. You do some movies that I approve of and some that I don't. Anyway. Okay guys, there you go. Those are the movies that I feel most improved upon their books. Now, I know that I didn't hit any like big ones where people were like, gasp, you thought The Hunger Games was better than the book? No, obviously not. The book is better. I mostly prefer the book to the movie. But are there any big ones that you guys think were done better than the book? Like, are there any ones that would step on people's toes where you were like, I think that the movie was clearly superior to the book, and everyone's like, no? Let me know in comments. I'd be very curious to hear. And just in general, even if they're not like big movies, what movies do you think improved upon their books? Because they're out there, and it's time we admit it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing my list, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!